What if the person who saved you wasn't the one who offered you words, but the one who gave you silence, the kind of silence that heals? She didn't know him, he didn't know her. But in a crowded cafe on a rainy evening, their lives crossed in a way that would change both of them forever. The cafe smelled of roasted coffee beans, cinnamon rolls, and warm butter croissants. Outside, rain poured heavily, blurring the glass windows and muffling the sound of the city. Inside, it was cozy, soft jazz playing in the background, chatter of strangers filling the air. And then, she entered. Her eyes were swollen, red from tears, and her hands trembled as she clutched a handbag like it was the last piece of safety she had left. A hush seemed to fall over the tables near the door as people noticed her, some stealing curious glances, others pretending not to see. She scanned the room, every table was full. Students typing furiously on laptops, couples whispering secrets, friends laughing over cake. She looked so lost, so small in her oversized sweater, as if the world had shrunk her down to nothing. And then, he saw her. He was sitting alone at a corner table, a plate of untouched food in front of him, a sandwich, half-eaten, and a steaming cup of black coffee. His posture was calm, but his eyes told another story. He noticed her pain the way a lighthouse notices a ship in a storm. Without a word, he pushed his plate forward, stood, and pulled out the chair across from him. She froze, startled, staring at him like she wasn't sure if this was kindness or pity. But when her knees buckled slightly from the exhaustion of holding back tears, she didn't think twice. She sank into the chair. The plate slid toward her. His food. His table. And strangely, his silence. No questions. No, are you okay? No awkward attempts to fix what couldn't be fixed. Just silence, the kind that wrapped her like a blanket. She picked up the sandwich, hesitated, and then took a bite. The food felt heavy in her mouth, but it anchored her somehow, pulled her away from drowning in her sorrow. Tears spilled down her cheeks again. She kept eating anyway. He sipped his coffee quietly, eyes lowered, as though giving her permission to fall apart without judgment. For the first time in days, she felt safe enough to cry without pretending. And for the first time in years, he felt the presence of someone who didn't demand his words, only his company. Minutes stretched into an hour. The cafe crowd shifted, people came and left, chairs scraped the floor, orders were called out, but at that table in the corner, the world was still. She finally looked up at him. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "Why?" It was the first word exchanged between them. He met her gaze, and there was something steady in his eyes, something that said, "You don't have to explain yourself to me." He shrugged lightly, the ghost of a smile on his lips. Because sometimes, silence helps more than questions. Her throat tightened. She had left home after a fight with someone she loved, someone who had thrown cruel words at her, words she couldn't unhear. Her heart carried bruises no one could see, and every time someone asked her, "What's wrong?" it only reminded her of the wound. But here, with him, she didn't need to perform her pain. She exhaled shakily. For the first time that day, her lungs didn't feel like they were collapsing. They sat in quiet again. She nibbled on the food, he finished his coffee. No names exchanged, no backstories demanded. Just two souls resting in the presence of one another. But something shifted inside her. She realized that healing doesn't always come with words, advice, or explanations. Sometimes it comes from simply being seen without judgment. And that's what he gave her. When she finally stood to leave, she whispered, "Thank you, for this." He nodded once, as if to say, "You don't owe me anything." At the door, she turned one last time. He was still sitting there, still calm, his presence still heavy with quiet kindness. And in that moment, she knew she'd carry this memory forever, the stranger who gave her his table, his food, and his silence, on the day she thought she had nothing left. Sometimes, the deepest love and the greatest kindness don't come from words. They come from presence. From choosing to sit with someone in their storm, without asking them to explain it. Because silence, when shared, is not empty, it is healing.